All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children. Men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. Jung's Red Pill, Archetypes, R.E.M. Science, and Spiritual Masculine Order, written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. Jung's Red Pill, a field guide for men who still notice reality. I don't care about truth. I want you to know that up front, because it's the one honest thing I'll ever say, and it's the one thing you'll never forgive me for. I care about power, my tribe's power, the power to decide who speaks and who is silenced. When I call your words violence, I don't mean it metaphorically. I mean I want them gone. And I have found the word that works. Safety is my spell. Care is my cudgel. And the beautiful thing, the thing that keeps me up at night with something resembling joy, is that you cannot argue with me without proving my point. That's not an accident. That's architecture. This feels morally intense because it is intense. I have taken the vocabulary of mercy and forged it into a whip. Every time I say, protect the marginalized, what I actually mean is obey me or be destroyed. Every time I say your logic is violent, I mean your logic threatens my authority, and I will not have it. Compassion as I deploy it is not the alleviation of suffering, it is the administration of compliance. It is the feeling I weaponize when I have run out of arguments. And here is my confession. The one I make without flinching, I like it this way. I like that you cannot win. I like that a trembling voice and the right jargon can end a career. I like that harm now means whatever I need it to mean. If you feel something crack inside you when you hear me speak, that is not your conscience. That is the sound of my definition replacing yours. And here's why my rant is the most useful evidence you will ever deconstruct. Because I have handed you the entire playbook. I have told you to your face that I do not care about fairness, that my compassion is coercion, that my justice is resentment with a PhD. I am the confession you didn't have to extract. The contradictions aren't bugs, they are the operating system. Free speech for me, safety for you. Tolerance as domination, care as control. Take every sentence I have spoken, turn it inside out, and you will find the truth I'm trying to bury, that this was never about healing. It was about who holds the dictionary.
And I intend to hold it until your sons forget what the old words meant. Dr. Wynona's rant, the setting, a university town hall, fluorescent lights, a podium.
A faculty member has just asked whether the new safe space removal policy, whereby any student may have a professor ejected from class for microaggressive energy without hearing notice,
or appeal, might raise due process concerns. The room tenses, the camera phones rise. Dr. Winona M. Voss, Associate Professor of Gender, Sexuality, and Critical Trauma Studies, adjusts her blazer.
The Venus symbol on her t-shirt peeks out beneath the lapel like a password. She grips the podium with both hands. Her voice trembles, but not from weakness, from righteousness. Let me just stop you right there. She exhales. The exhale is mic'd. It travels through TikTok. You said due process. You stood up in this room in this year and you invoked due process. Do you understand what that phrase is? Do you understand its genealogy? Due process is a tool of patriarchal juridical logic. It was designed by men for men to protect male property and male authority from accountability. And you are deploying it right now as a shield against the emotional safety of our students. She lets the word students land like a gavel. So let me be very clear. When a marginalized student says that professor's presence makes me feel unsafe, that is not an allegation. It is a testimony, it is data. It is lived experience, which is a higher epistemological standard than your precious peer review. You want a hearing. The hearing already happened. In that student's body, in her nervous system, her cortisol is the evidence. Her trauma response is the trial. And you sitting there in your tenure, in your certainty, in your logic, you want to put that on cross-examination. A pause. She touches her chest. I am going to speak truth right now, even if it costs me. Because this is what courage looks like. She leans forward. That man who asked the question, he didn't ask a question. He committed an act of epistemic violence. The frame of due process assumes that both parties enter the room equally. They do not. A student of marginalized identity enters every room already wounded by the systemic trauma of a white supremacist, cisheteropatriarchal institution. The professor enters with rank, history, salary, and the entire weight of Western rationalist tradition behind him. So when you say fair hearing, what you mean is, let the powerful man keep his platform while the wounded child begs for relief. That is not fairness. That is trauma reenactment. She straightens, and I will not participate in it. Another breath, she shifts registers from fury to care. I want to say something to the students in this room. To the students watching this, I see you, I believe you. Your feelings are facts. Your discomfort is diagnostic if a professor's tone, his energy, his way of being in the room. If that makes you feel small, you do not need to prove it. You do not need to argue it. You do not need to debate your own humanity with someone who has never had to. You just say the word, and we will move him, because your safety is not negotiable. Your safety is a human right, and his speech. His speech is a privilege. And privileges can be revoked. She pauses, softens. This is not censorship. Censorship is what the system does to the marginalized. What we are doing is care. This is compassionate governance. This is trauma-informed leadership. We are not silencing anyone. We are curating the environment so that the most vulnerable can finally breathe. If he has something to say, he can say it in his own space. He can write it in his own journal. He can publish it in his own echo chamber. But he does not have the right to colonize our classroom with his perspective. Her voice rises. Because here's the thing about free speech. Free speech, as it is practiced in this country, is the right of the loudest voice to dominate the room without consequence. It is the myth that the marketplace of ideas is neutral. It is not neutral. It was built by men who looked like him, for men who think like him, to protect their right to never be challenged. Well, we are challenging it, and he is afraid, and he should be, because the world is changing, and his comfort is not the ceiling of our compassion anymore. She almost whispers, discomfort is growth. We tell our students that. It's time we told our professors. Then, with surgical precision, the final turn. If he is removed from a classroom because a student felt unsafe, and he wants to call that censorship, then I reject his definition. Because his definition of censorship was written by people who were never censored by him, our definition is written by the people who were. And I will take the testimony of the wounded over the logic of the comfortable every single time. She straightens the Venus symbol on her shirt. We are protecting students from his toxic presence. That is not punishment. That is love. If he feels silenced, good. Now he knows how we have felt for centuries. Now he knows. She steps back from the podium. The room is silent. Someone's phone is still recording.
The clip has 2.3 million views by morning. The deconstruction. The rant as evidence when Dr. Winona M. Voss grips the podium, her trembling voice broadcast to millions. She does not present an argument.
She presents a specimen for the man seeking to understand the architecture of modern ideological capture. This performance is an invaluable piece of evidence. It is a masterclass in rhetorical frame control, emotional blackmail, and the theatrical appropriation of moral virtue. Do not listen to her words for truth. Listen to them for mechanics. The trembling exhale is not weakness. It is a weaponized display of righteousness designed to establish moral supremacy. The Venus symbol peeking from her blazer is not merely fashion, it is a sacerdotal garment, a uniform signaling which tribe holds the anointed status. She operates as an institutional inquisitor, wielding the vocabulary of therapy to dismantle the foundations of Western jurisprudence. To dismantle her, we must stop reacting to the emotional payload and begin dissecting the syntactic and logical structure of her spell, what she accidentally confessed.
Underneath the polished therapeutic jargon, Winona delivers a flawless projective confession. She is not aware of it, which makes it infinitely more revealing. She declares, if he feels silenced, good.
Now he knows how we have felt for centuries. With that single phrase, the mask of universal compassion drops, revealing the true engine of the ideology, punitive resentment. She is not interested in healing the student's trauma. She is interested in exacting revenge upon the stand-in for historical authority. She transforms the classroom from a theater of dialectic into a kangaroo court of score settling. Furthermore, she confesses her terror of objective reality when she elevates lived experience to a higher epistemological standard. If truth is subjective, she can never be proven wrong. Her feelings become an unfalsible shield against logic. By demanding the power to move him without a hearing, she confesses that her ideology cannot survive the crucible of debate. She requires censorship because her arguments are structurally defective. She silences him because she cannot defeat him. The slogan machine.
Winona's rhetoric relies heavily on a slogan stack designed to terminate thought rather than provoke it.
These phrases are not arguments. They are incantations meant to bypass the rational mind and trigger institutional reflexes. Safety is a human right. Discomfort is growth. Lived experience is the highest epistemological standard. These are deployed as a coordinated rhetorical system. By redefining safety to mean freedom from psychological discomfort, she manufactures a crisis that justifies totalitarian intervention. Lived experience functions as a modern-day oracle. Whatever the marginalized subject pronounces is magically transformed into unquestionable dogma. Notice the linguistic capture. Epistemic violence is the most potent slogan in her arsenal. It commits a glaring category error, conflating physical force with the articulation of an idea. By rebranding logic and due process as violence, she provides herself with a moral justification to use actual physical and institutional violence, getting a man fired, stripped of his tenure,
and removed from his livelihood to stop a man from merely asking a procedural question, the wrong idea underneath. At the metaphysical root of Winona's rant is a neo-Gnostic rebellion against the given world.
The Western patriarchal tradition rests on the logos, the belief that the universe is intelligible, that objective truth exists, and that reality is independent of human desire.
Natural law dictates that words are not fists. Offense is not harm, and mercy requires the prior establishment of justice. Winona's ideological script inverts this completely.
She operates on the assumption that subjective emotional states hold greater ontological weight than objective facts. She views the material world of rules, logic, and hierarchies not as the necessary scaffolding of civilization, but as a demonic prison built by the cis-heteropatriarchy. In this framework, the professor is not a man making a point. He is a physical manifestation of an oppressive demiurge. His very existence in the room is an act of colonization. Therefore, his removal is not an infringement of rights, but an act of cosmic hygiene. This is not a debate over university policy, it is a spiritual war against common sense and the very grammar of reality, the inversions.
To build her utopian asylum, Winona must systematically invert the classical virtues and natural orders.
Let us catalogue the specific satanic inversions operating within her brief rant. Truth into harm. By labeling his question epistemic violence, she makes the pursuit of truth inherently dangerous. In the natural order, a true statement is a supreme good. In her order, a true statement that causes cognitive dissonance is reclassified as an injury, justice into envy. His tenure is a privilege that silences us.
We need to level the playing field. Tenure was historically designed to protect unpopular truth from the wrath of the mob. Winona reframes earned rank and competence as a systemic theft. This is not justice, it is the laundering of envy. True justice gives each man his due based on his merit and action. Winona demands the leveling of excellence to soothe the inadequacy of the mediocre. Care into control. We are protecting the students from his toxic energy. It's an act of love. True care builds the resilience of the other. It respects their agency. Winona's care is a totalizing control mechanism.
By removing the student's exposure to friction, she infantizes the student while simultaneously securing her own institutional power. She calls the cage a sanctuary. Freedom into license. She demands the freedom to exist unchallenged, which is actually mere license. She explicitly revokes the professor's natural right to free speech, recasting it as a conditional privilege granted by the new institutional majority. Freedom under natural law requires restraint and duty. Her ideology requires only submission to her whims. Mercy into due process abolition. Her trauma response is the trial. This is the most terrifying inversion. Western civilizations spent millennia developing the shadufs of justice, the simple, ancient, and highly effective technologies of due process, cross-examination, and evidentiary standards.
Winona burns the tools of reason at the stake. She proclaims that the verdict is decided by the cortisol levels of the accuser. Judgment without a hearing is not mercy. It is tyranny, undoing the spell.
The man armed with the trivium, grammar, logic, and rhetoric can effortlessly undo this spell. The key is to refuse the premise of the emotional frame and force the dialogue back onto the solid bedrock of objective reality. Grammar, restoring definitions. The first defensive move is definitional. You must refuse to accept her vocabulary. Define harm, you must ask. Is it physical injury, financial ruin, defamation? Or is it merely bruised ego? If she cannot produce a measurable injury, there is no crime. Define censorship, it is the suppression of speech by institutional authority. If she supports the summary removal of a man without a hearing, she is a censor. Regardless of how much she insists, she is merely curating the space. State plainly, curation by the powerful is still censorship. Logic exposing contradictions. Apply the universal acid of the sex swap test. If a conservative male professor demanded a female student be dragged from his classroom because her feminist rhetoric caused his nervous system to enter a trauma response,
would Winona celebrate this as compassionate governance? Of course not. The asymmetry of the rule exposes its true nature. It is a weapon designed solely to disarm the political opposition. Furthermore, deploy the fruit test. Jesus Christ said, "You will know them by their fruits." Does Winona's policy produce wise, brave, and competent students capable of governing a republic? No.
It produces anxious, hyperfragile informants who view every disagreement as a violation. The policy fails the test of reality. Rhetoric exposing the motive. When she speaks of compassion, translate her rhetoric into plain English. Her compassion is an institutional power bid. Her goal is not to elevate the marginalized, but to subordinate the competent. When she speaks of leveling the playing field, she means tearing down the monuments of Western achievement because she cannot build her own. Back to natural order. To defeat the hydra of feminist and Marxist capture, we must actively restore the patriarchal traditions of the West. The university was not built to be a trauma ward. It was built as a rigorous training ground for the masculine intellect. Men are the load-bearing sex of civilization. We build the grids, defend the borders, draft the laws, and maintain the difficult disciplines of philosophy, engineering, and theology. Our goodness is found in our quiet maintenance of the world, our duty, our sacrifice, our restraint, and our willingness to engage in the dangerous pursuit of truth.
The natural order demands that we reject the therapeutic jurisdiction of Dr. Winona and her ideological kin. A right that protects only approved speech is not a right. Tolerance without reciprocity is merely domination.
Safety cannot be purchased by sacrificing the logos. We must return to the household budget of reality. Actions have consequences, words have fixed definitions, and feelings do not overrule facts. We must rebuild the institution she has infected. We must teach our sons the trivium. We must restore the master-apprentice ladder, the honor of the trades, and the dignity of fatherhood. We must defend due process as if our lives depend on it, because in the genocentric court of the ideology, they do. True love does not coddle the weak into eternal victimhood. True love speaks the truth, even when it offends, because truth is the only soil in which virtue can grow, the question that ends it. When confronted by the academic inquisitors, the HR managers, the diversity officers, and the emotionally volatile advocates of compassionate censorship, you do not need a counter-rant. You do not need to match their hysteria. You simply need the clarity to ask the one question that their entire ideological framework cannot withstand. Look them in the eye and ask, if your compassion requires me to be silent, is it love or is it power? Love builds, love corrects, love endures the discomfort of disagreement to reach a higher truth.
Power consumes, silences, and punishes. Winona's God is not love, her God is the unchecked will to power. Repressive tolerance is just censorship with a halo. Let them wear the halo. You hold the line of the logos.
Field Manual, Card 1, Therapeutic Jurisdiction Q. She converts a factual dispute into an emotional emergency. That's not just your opinion. That's harm. A classroom disagreement becomes a safety incident. A policy question becomes a wound. The vocabulary shifts from evidence to injury. Wrong idea that feelings are facts requiring institutional response. That subjective distress carries the same ontological weight as objective harm. Inversion, truth becomes violence. Disagreement becomes trauma. Question: if his sentence caused an emergency, what survives of your earthquake-proof ideology? Restoration, law adjudicates actions. Therapy addresses feelings. Validate the feeling, punish the act. Never let mood masquerade as evidence. A courtroom is not a therapist's couch, and a lecture hall is not a support group. The feeling cannot legislate. Card 2, Keres Conrol Q. She frames censorship as kindness. We're protecting students from toxic presence. Removal of a professor is an act of love. Silencing dissent is curating safety. The language is maternal. The action is authoritarian. Wrong idea that reducing someone's agency constitutes care. That protection requires elimination of the supposedly dangerous voice. Inversion, care into coercion, protection into domination. Question: does your protection increase or decrease the agency of those you claim to protect? Restoration, true care respects autonomy. A father doesn't chop off his son's legs to prevent tripping. He teaches him to walk the rough path. Institutional care that removes choice isn't nurture. It's a leash called love, Card 3. Envy, Loundering Q. She reframes resentment of competence as justice. His tenure is a privilege that silences marginalized voices. Merit becomes gatekeeping. Excellence becomes exclusion. Her inability becomes his injustice. Wrong idea that equality of outcome outranks merit, that someone else's achievement diminishes the unaccomplished. Inversion, justice into envy leveling, honor into guilt. Question: if the field were truly level, would you still lose? Restoration hierarchy based on competence is natural, necessary, and noble. The builder outranks the complainer. The bridge architect outranks the bridge critic. Name the envy beneath the equity. Restore the meritocracy that built every institution they now colonize. Envy wears justice like a stolen coat. Card 4, Postmodern Fogue Q. She deploys undefined terms as weapons. Microaggression, toxic, unsafe. Each word stretches to cover whatever she needs it to cover. Definitions shift the moment you challenge them. The goalposts relocate on rails. Wrong idea that meaning is subjective, power-dependent, and infinitely negotiable. Inversion, definition into manipulation, language into a weapon rather than a tool. Question: can you define the term so precisely that you could be guilty of it? Restoration, demand definitions, pin the terms. Words have fixed meanings or civilization collapses. If she cannot define violence without including speech, she cannot wield the word against you. Grammar is the first defense against tyranny. Define or die. Card 5, Shadow Encoded Q. She projects her own aggression onto the opponent. His speech is violence. Her institutional silencing of him is care. She accuses him of what she does while doing what she accuses. Wrong idea. That her motives are pure because she occupies the victim position, that his are sinister because he occupies the oppressor position. Inversion, aggressor becomes victim, victim becomes aggressor. Question: who actually has the power to punish here, the speaker or the silencer? Restoration: look at the action, not the actor. Does the action suppress, coerce, or punish? Then it is aggression regardless of who performs it. The woman wielding institutional power to destroy a man's career is not resisting violence. She is the violence. Card 6. Compassionate censorship Q. She demands free speech for her ideology and safety for yours. Her protest is heroic. Your dissent is harmful. Her slogans are education. Your questions are violence. The rule runs one direction, always. Wrong idea. That approved speech deserves protection, while disapproved speech deserves elimination, and that this asymmetry constitutes justice. Inversion, tolerance into repression, liberty into license for me, leash for thee. Question: if your tolerance only tolerates agreement, what exactly are you tolerating? Restoration: a right that protects only approved speech is not a right, it is a privilege dressed in constitutional clothing. Tolerance without reciprocity is domination. Free speech exists precisely for the unpopular, the inconvenient, and the offensive. Repressive tolerance is censorship with a halo. Logos cannot breathe where one side owns the dictionary. Detonating question: if your compassion requires me to be silent, is it love or is it power? One rule to carry. I have walked you through the chambers of this inverted architecture, the renamed vices, the weaponized compassion, the censored syllables, the fathers stripped of speech in rooms they built with their own hands. Now I leave you with the one rule that has never failed me, the rule that cuts through every performative tremor, every therapeutic edict, every campus commissioner of feelings, when a rant runs around the room. Make the words stand still. Pin each term to the table. Ask what it means. Ask who pays. Ask what fruit it bears in a household, in a winter, in a courtroom, in a child's life. Then identify the projection, because every accusation fired at masculine order is a confession of the accuser's own disorder, her envy parading as justice, her hunger for control dressed in the vocabulary of care. Name the inversion plainly. Truth called violence, due process called oppression, a father's authority called abuse, silence called safety. Once you have named it, the spell breaks. The demon cannot survive being described accurately. Then restore natural order, not with their vocabulary, not on their stage, not by their rules of engagement, but with the grammar your grandfather lived before the academics got to it. A word means what it means. A man is what he builds, protects, provides, and sacrifices, not what he is accused of being by a committee that has never carried a load heavier than a grievance. Boys need fathers, borders need defenders. Truth needs no halo of censorship to validate it. Speech is not violence and silence is not safety. These are lies told by people whose ideas cannot survive open air. When you meet the rant, do not match its hysteria. Outlast it with definition, outreason it with evidence, out-author it with the logos that spoke creation into order and set boundaries on the chaos. That is the masculine inheritance. That is the work. Do this every time, in every room, at every table, and you will find what I have found. The entire machinery of ideological possession runs on the fuel of unanswered assertions and undefined words. Starve it. Define the terms. Name the inversion. Restore the order. The bridge holds because men built it to hold. The truth stands because it was true before the rant began and will be true after the rant has spent itself against it, like wind against stone. Carry that. Sponsored book, Jung's Red Pill Archetypes, R.E.M. Science and spiritual masculine order. Men are not born. We are forged. If you're reading this, you've felt the rot, the gnawing void where purpose should be. You've woken drenched in sweat, haunted by dreams you can't control, mocked by a world that calls your instincts toxic while demanding you kneel to its chaos. I wrote this book because I've been you. I've choked on the lies, felt my spine erode under the weight of compromise, watched my brothers fracture into husks of what they were designed to be. This isn't theory, it's survival. At 34, I hit bedrock. Years of nightmares, serpents, falling, faceless enemies, left me paralyzed. Therapy taught me to embrace vulnerability. Meditation gurus sold me cosmic pacifism. I tried feminism's Kool-Aid, choked on its contradictions. Then I found the patterns in my dream journals, in religious texts, in the hard science of R.E.M cycles. The truth was buried in our biology, our myths, our synaptic wiring. Masculine order isn't a social construct. It's an evolutionary mandate written in your DNA, hijacked by those who profit from your confusion. This book is a weapon. It's for men who see through the gender lies, who refuse to apologize for their hunger to lead, build, and protect. If you're content being a pet to modernity, close this now, go binge Netflix, collect soy points. But if you're ready to weaponize your dreams, decode Jung's shadow language, and hack the neurochemical code of dominance, keep reading. Inside, you'll rip apart Freud's weakness, expose how trauma can be reverse-engineered into power using Mesopotamian rituals, and align your psyche with the CTMU's cosmic hierarchy. You'll learn why toxic masculinity is a trap set by those terrified of your potential, and how Stoic dream rehearsal crushes cognitive dissonance. The chapters ahead, like the neurobiology of sacred hierarchy and quantum consciousness and prophetic protocol, aren't philosophy. They're field manuals, non-targets, feminists, guilt addicts, soy jacks. This isn't for you. Your dogma dies here. For the rest, your dreams aren't random, they're a training ground. Master them, and you master the matrix. The red pill isn't swallowed, it's earned. Turn the page or kneel. Choice is your first test. Jung's Red Pill, Archetypes, R.E.M Science, and Spiritual Masculine Order, written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.